Greetings and well met, everybody. This is HELLSCREAM, and today I want to show you guys what the best decks to climb with in Scholomance Academy are, specifically in Standard. I've been able to play the expansion for a couple of days now, and from what I've been able to understand, there's a lot of really good decks out there right now, but there's a lot of decks that are able to consistently win a lot better than some of the memes that we've come to see in these past couple of days. So I just want to kind of show you guys what I believe are memes and what I believe is the real deal. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. What I believe is one of the most powerful decks right now is definitely pure Libram Paladin. According to HSReplay, Paladin has the highest % win rate according to all of the ranks, and I'm not sure how this is at the legend rank, but I mean, this deck is very consistent in what it does. It's just classic curved Paladin, where you want to play the good cards on the good mana turns, play the 1-drop on 1, play the 2-drop on 2, 3-drop on 3, etc. But you also have a lot of cards that can give you a lot of value, or like a lot of value out of nowhere, such as Light Forge Crusader and Lady Liadrin, to really give yourself like a buff out of nowhere. Because then suddenly, like, if you get a bunch of Librams at once, like your 1/1s are going to start becoming like 5/5s or 6/6s, and it's just absolutely insane the amount of damage that this deck can exert. Something that I want to highlight is actually the Blessing of Authority, because I feel like a lot of people are not really seeing this card in the best way possible. Like today in an Open Cup, I saw this card used completely perfectly, which kind of sparked me to want to make this video, actually. So what my opponent ended up doing was he ended up trading with a minion and then buffed it with Blessing of Authority. I mean, you could also, you know, buff it beforehand if you need the HP, but in any case, the biggest point that I want to make is that while value trading, he just immediately puts it on a minion to where, like, not attacking the face isn't an issue. So there's a lot of good ways to where, like, you could just make a gigantic minion out of nowhere, and then suddenly if your opponent doesn't deal with it, you just have this massive amount of damage that's going to the face. And in this particular situation, he got, oh god, the twin spell, the twin spell lifesteal Paladin spell, and it ended up going on the Light Forge Crusader and completely, like, destroyed any chances that I had of winning the game. I was playing Aggro Warrior. But in any case, it was really, really powerful, and I think that Libram Paladin is going to be staying here for a little bit. It just depends on what is better than it. I'm not really sure if we've found it yet, but I think that there are some other decks that can outbeat this, but this is just definitely a well-rounded good deck that I believe if anyone wanted to climb the legend, they have the capability to. Next up, we have an aggro deck that was popularized by Meati. Meati always happens to find these decks that are really good day one, so I'm not surprised that he was able to get, I believe, rank 3 with this deck on the 7th of this month, which I believe was the 2nd or 3rd, so yeah, the 2nd day of this expansion. So this deck is kind of shifting towards a different build, not really running cutting class anymore, but these deck lists are here to show you the idea of what people are having success with during these days. So this deck is just a classic Aggro Rogue, and it really highlights Secret Passage being a good card, and Secret Passage is utterly bonkers. Like, Aggro Rogue just seems to be the forerunner for Rogue at the moment, Galakron being second, but like Galakron is still really, really good, but Aggro Rogue just kills your opponents a lot faster than other techs that you have at Rogue's disposal. So like against Druid right now, this is kind of the strategy you want to go for. You know, just hit them really hard so they can't even play their important cards. And with the meta being as it is, I can see this deck not really going anywhere because aggro is pretty decent right now compared to, like, you know, the combo decks that have arisen and like the Druid decks, of course. But the biggest thing that I don't like about decks like this is the moment that you deal with their threats, they kind of run out of gas pretty quickly. So you have to be able to put on maximum pressure through every single one of your turns. Otherwise, this deck falls flat. We'll probably see some optimized lists as the weeks go on. But for now, Aggro Rogue is not going anywhere. Alright, and next up we've got Tempo Demon Hunter. This is a deck that I really didn't think was going to have a lot of power in this particular meta, but I actually played a few games with this particular list from Bobbyex. I just hit him up being like, yo, what's a good deck right now? And he's like, I'm having success with Demon Hunter. And something I really want to point out is something about this particular list. It's actually the Lorekeeper Pulkit. I think that this card is absolutely amazing in Demon Hunter right now. And there has been some lists that I see where literally all you're playing is 3 drops, Pulkit, and then Skull of Gul'dans. So there's a lot of ways that you can easily cheap out some. You can easily cheap out some games with like 2 mana Gladebound Adepts, 1 mana Marrow Slicers, 1 mana Sun Fury Canes, and even like Altruist picks are really, really impressive. But something that I really want to point out about this deck in particular is an interaction with the Soul Shards. So something to keep in mind after you've played Pulket, if you play Marrow Slicer, it's going to reshuffle the deck, so therefore you're not drawing the highest cards anymore. So keep that in mind when you're playing this particular list. I'm not sure if the Marrow Slicers are 100% necessary. When I was talking with Bobbyex, he really just said that, you know, it's in there because it's a good tempo tool. You know, it's essentially 8 damage for 4 mana when you break it down that way. And if you're able to get the ball rolling with your Skull of Gul'dans, or you're able to, you know, play this turn 4 into Glaive-Bound Adept, there's a lot of ways that Demon Hunter can just win. So I'm not sure if Demon Hunter's other builds like Control Demon Hunter and Big Demon Hunter are going to be able to be that good. So if Demon Hunter is going to be meta by any means, it's going to be some kind of tempo or aggro list. And this is the best list that I personally had success with, but we might see some better ones as time goes on. Next up, we have a list that isn't really going anywhere, so you guys just might as well get used to it. But Gaby was able to play Aggro Warrior and hit rank 1 yet again on the first couple days of the expansion. This deck really hasn't changed all too much, except for maybe some people adding in like a Lord Barav, the new Paladin Warrior dual class legendary, where, you know, the battle cry changes all enemy minions to 1 HP, and then you deal 1 damage to all of them. So, like, that is pretty decent if you want, like, you know, Barav into Risky Skipper or something like that in order to clear the board. But this deck is still just good at what it does. Like, it clears early aggression with Risky Skipper Armorsmith to give yourself some breathing space, while also having the Corcoran damage if needed for burst. And now that we're running 2 Shield of Honors instead of running any Rampages, you can easily get, I believe it's 28 damage. 28 damage for a full, I think it's 9 mana actually. Like, yeah, 4 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3. Yeah, so yeah, for 9 mana, you can easily do the 28 damage combo, which is really, really clutch in a lot of matchups, especially against Priest. So Aggro Warrior just really isn't going anywhere. Shield of Honor is really powerful for the deck because there's a lot of situations where even on like turn 5, I played Corcoran into Inner Rage, Shield of Honor, and then suddenly my opponent couldn't deal with the shielded up Corcoran Elite, and then I just ended up winning the game because of it. So this deck is still really powerful. I don't think it's as powerful, or like, I don't think it's on top of the meta by any means, but I definitely think that this deck isn't going anywhere, especially for the people that can play this deck well. Next up is probably going to be one of the most interesting decks that we've seen so far in Scholomance Academy, and that is Combo Spell Damage Mage with Mozaki Duelist. Oh my gosh, I knew that Mozaki was going to be good, but I had no idea it would be this good. Essentially, Freeze Mage is back, boys. Like, this deck is really, really powerful because it has a lot of ways of just, like, getting consistent card draw off of the Lore Keeper, because you essentially just want to keep that card, and if you have Incanter's Flow before you play it, then it's just absolutely amazing what this deck can do. You draw your Blizzard so you can easily just, you know, stall the turns. You have lots of card draw. Cram Session, actually, is a huge tool, especially when you're comboing with Mozaki Master Duelist, so that way you can, like, draw, like, the last 8 cards of your deck in order to just make sure that you're getting as many 1-mana cards as possible to charge up this combo. But just in case anybody hasn't seen any of the highlights yet, the way that this deck actually kills people is by playing Mozaki into double Sorcerer's Apprentice. Sometimes even both, but, you know, having both definitely helps. But in any case, you play double Sorcerer's Apprentice and Mozaki. You play almost your entire deck, because if you're looking at this, almost your entire deck is 2 mana or less. So all in one turn, you're playing all of these spells, drawing with Cram Session, because every single time you play a spell, it's essentially giving you another draw. And yeah, this deck can deal anywhere between 30 to 80 damage. Depending on how the meta goes, this will definitely see play in at least some tournaments. Like, we've seen it in some open cups. It's not really the go-to by any means. Like, you have to build your lineup very specifically for it. But I feel like this deck had to be put on the list because of its absolutely insane power level. And once the meta slows down and we know what's going to be good, we're going to see if this deck is going to have its time in the light. Alright, next up, I'm going to be showing you guys more than one deck at a time because Priest is looking absolutely insane right now. I would say that behind Druid, I would put Priest at, like, maybe 2nd or 3rd compared to all the classes in the meta. But yeah, just, like, look at what we got. We have Galakrond Dragon Priest that has been popularized by Aveline. She's still streaming this on her channel, so if you guys want to go check that out, I would definitely recommend it. She's a baller with that deck. We have Yoink Priest that was, I don't think it was popularized by Zyros, but while I was making this video, he actually posted a rank 1 screenshot, taking rank 1 from Gaby, finally. And yeah, this was the deck that he used to do it, and there's been a lot of people talking about how good this particular deck is. So, and then there's also a Highlander Priest that, you know, it hasn't really changed all too much, but with the new Priest cards, like, it's absolutely insane what it can do. You have so many ways of stealing cards. But where to begin with Priest as a whole? Priest has really gotten better because it has a lot of cards to help its early game. And it also has cards that really synergize well with the class, like Raise Dead, for example. Raise Dead is in every single one of these decks, and rightfully so. Like, there's a lot of games where, like, you can easily, like, if it's a very niche situation, but say you play Soul Mirror, and then you play Raise Dead, and you get Kael'thas, and suddenly you can do Kael'thas combos. Is that game winning? No, but it's cool. There's just a lot of directions that Priest can go with Raise Dead being a card, because you get a lot of early game if you need it. Say you had, like, oh god, you had like a Mind Flayer, or you had like a Fate Reaver or something like that in the early game that you're able to get value on, and you just want to go for that card again, you can easily get it. Maybe you want a second Invoke, maybe you want to do other things with it. In any case, like, these decks I don't think are really going to go anywhere, even if some of these, even if some of the hot decks right now get nerfed, because Priest is just really good right now. There's a lot of different ways you can build it, there's a lot of different ways that you can tech it, and Mind Render, Elucia, absolutely busted card, by the way. I don't know why this particular list doesn't run it in Highlander. Maybe because you don't want to give your opponent any of the Highlander cards or anything like that. But in every other deck, like, it just absolutely slaughters when you play it. Like, this against Combo Mage just absolutely tears it apart. And just, Priest isn't going anywhere. So get used to seeing your Priest Overlords, because it is a powerhouse right now. Last but not least, we have Druid, you know. Like, this isn't necessarily in any particular order in terms of power level. They're just organized by class. But Druid, I would argue, is probably one of the best, if not the best class right now. HSReplay may say that Paladin is on top, but I feel like in the legend ranks, Druid is just absolutely dominant. Like, you have Survival of the Fittest, which I've already talked about before in the past. But in any case, here's the meta sum down. It's just really good, dude. It's just so good. Druid just doesn't run out of gas, even though it doesn't really have too many minions. And you have Ysera in those situations where you start to run out of gas. And, like, your opponent needs to have a deck that is going to beat yours in order to beat this deck. So it's like, what do you want me to say about it, man? Survival of the Fittest. I've already said my opinion about this card and how I don't think it's the healthiest in the world. But man, can it perform! Like, with Kael'thas combos, with double overflow, which I believe is completely core, by the way. Like, the whole powerhouse of this deck is centered around Kael'thas drawing out more than half of your deck in one turn, and double overflow is just a perfect way to do that. And you can kind of see the same thing with Tyler's Malygos Druid. This is a list that he was playing today, and I originally had Viper's list, but I saw the inclusion of Geppetto and thought this just had to be in the Malygos version deck. Because, like, it's exactly what you want out of it. And you also have the Omu combos that are potential out of the Geppetto as well. So I think that this deck is very, very well crafted for the specific meta that Tyler was going up against. I'm not sure if Germation needs to be a 2-of, but when you have 1 mana Omus that are possible and 1 mana Mallies, you may not even need that, because you just have a lot of things that can happen with this deck. Obviously, Guardian Animals is a hot topic for debate right now on whether or not it should be nerfed to 8, or whether or not you should get rid of the rush off of the minions. But in any case, Druid is on top, and I believe that these are probably the most powerful decks that you can play in Scholomance Academy right now. So what do you guys think is on top? Do you think Druid's on top? Do you think Priest is on top? Or do you think that HSReplay is right and Paladin is just the best class right now? They also say that Demon Hunter is number 3, so I'm kind of on edge on whether or not I believe that. But in any case, these are my opinions. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll hopefully see you next time for the next video.